Hello and welcome to the special series on technical writing. Today we are going to discuss a very interesting topic, descriptive writing. The descriptive essay is written to describe something, a situation, person, place, object, experience, emotion, et al. This genre encourages the student's ability to create a written account of a particular experience. This genre of writing allows for a great deal of artistic freedom and allows the writer to use picturesque language and use one's creative abilities to the fullest. The fundamental of descriptive writing is simple. You have to make the reader understand what you are trying to say, and more importantly make the reader a sort of visualize the description that you are giving in your writing. When you are writing something imaginative such as a story or an account of an interesting personal experience, you can make your writing more effective by including detailed descriptions of people and places. To write effective descriptions, you need to have a clear picture of who or what it is that you are setting out to describe. Doing this allows you to focus on precise details which make the descriptions come alive in the reader's mind. Good writers incorporate descriptive passages into the overall piece of writing rather than write descriptively for the sake of it. A good rule to follow in writing descriptions is to base what you describe on your own experiences. This does not mean that writers always describe exactly what they have seen or people they have met, but because that they use their real life experiences as a basis for their descriptions and then develop them from there. Now, let us talk about the purposes of descriptive essay. The purpose of an academic descriptive essay should not be confused with the purpose of a narrative essay. A narrative essay is considered to be a work of literature, the purpose of which is often to enlighten or entertain the reader. It often falls in the realm of creative non-fiction. The purpose of an academic narrative descriptive essay is much more straightforward than creative non-fiction. Creative non-fiction is basically a good piece of riveting story. Although an academic narrative essay may use some of the literary elements of creative non-fiction such as pacing, dialogue, conflict, suspense and tension, its intention is different. The academic descriptive essay's purpose or goal is to convey in a clear, purposeful way the significance of the story being told rather than focusing too much on the entertainment process. Most often an academic descriptive essay has a thesis in the first paragraph which communicates a dominant impression. In other words, it answers the unspoken question in the reader's mind: what is the point of the story being told? What is the dominant impression the writer is trying to illustrate to her or his reader? This is not the case with most pieces of literary writing, where the purpose is often unstated and therefore the reader often guesses at the theme or thesis. Academic descriptive writing should convey a prominent impression, but the real key to successful writing in this mode is to convey the reason or significance of the story being told or described. The thesis and the introductory paragraph should communicate a dominant impression and or the main purpose of this particular descriptive story being told in essay form. However, an academic descriptive essay will often employ literary techniques or devices to enhance the essay, but also to demonstrate clear supporting examples which help to highlight the significance of the thesis. These literary techniques include conflict, suspense, and tension or the plot, which help to give the reader a frame of reference such as time passing. Anecdotes help to dramatize the writer's relationship with the subject. They also help to clarify the significance of the story to the reader. In short, in the academic descriptive essay mode, these techniques are the support material of the essay which help to give depth and texture to the thesis and conclusion. As with creative writing, in academic descriptive writing, it is often stronger to show and not tell the reader the majority of the story. The academic writer needs to be specific and use all of his or her senses in fully developing a vivid portrayal of the anecdotes used in the essay. In addition, literary devices such as adding dialogue to the essay and using similes or metaphors helps to evoke strong mental images in the mind of the reader. Further, strong writers of the descriptive mode avoid overuse of adjectives. For example, consider the sentence, "The hot, humid and drippy summer of the last year was one to remember," is to use so many adjectives one on top of the other that it will weaken the dominant impression the essay is trying to create. A descriptive essay simply describes something or someone by appealing to the reader's senses, that is sight, sound, touch, smell and taste. Here are the basic steps to writing an effective descriptive essay. Observation is the key to writing a good description. For example, if you are writing about a place, go there and take notes on the sights, sounds and smells. A descriptive essay paints a picture for the reader using descriptive devices and the senses. Create a thesis statement that informs the reader who or what you are describing. Select only the details that support the dominant impression of your thesis statement. Use descriptive words, do not use vague words or generalities such as good, nice, bad or beautiful. Be specific and use sensory descriptive words, that is adjectives. For example, I ate a good dinner, or I devoured a steaming hot cheese filled pepperoni pizza for dinner. Provide sensory details, smells that are in the air like the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, sounds like traffic honking horns. Invoke the sense of sight like in the statement, the sun scattered tiny diamonds across dew covered grass as it peeked out from beyond the horizon. The sense of touch. The texture of the hut's walls resembled coarse sandpaper. The sense of taste. Sweet, sour, salty, bitter, tart. For example, like the divine sweetness of hot jalebis melting in one's mouth has a very few equals. We are talking about use of similes. A simile is a figure of speech in which two things that are not obviously like each other are compared to make a description more vivid. A simile will often begin with a phrase introduced by like or as. Here are some examples of similes. The piston of the steam engine worked monotonously up and down like the head of an elephant in a state of melancholy madness. A small strawberry pink villa like some exotic fruit lying in the greenery. The cypress trees undulated gently in the breeze as if they were busily painting the sky. Roses dropped petals that seemed as big and smooth as saucers. Marigolds like broods of shaggy suns. 1,000 ballerina like blooms quivered expectantly. You will notice that each of these similes make you think of the object it describes in an original way, bringing the object more clearly into your mind. For example, the bright orange color of the marigolds and the shape of their petals are emphasized by the comparison with the shaggy sun, and the comparison with large saucers focuses on the size and perfection of the rose petals. In our first example taken out of Charles Dickens' Hard Times, achieves many effects with his comparison of the movement of the steam engine's piston with the movement of an elephant in a state of melancholy madness. He emphasizes the unnatural and overwhelming size of the machines. He hints at the depressing effects they have on the lives of the workers, and he suggests the dangerous and potentially uncontrollable power and strength contained within them. Now we are talking about metaphors. Metaphors are like concentrated similes. In a metaphor, two dissimilar things are compared, but rather than saying one is like the other, a metaphor goes a stage further and makes one thing become another. For example, in the Hard Times, Dickens writes about tall chimneys out of which interminable serpents of smoke trailed themselves forever and ever and never get uncoiled. Here he is comparing the way smoke from the factory chimneys appears in the sky to huge snakes floating in the air and coiling above the ground. However, rather than say the smoke was like snakes, he gives the scene even more impact by making the smoke and the snakes the same thing. He succeeds in adding to the hellish portrait of the town. Metaphors are often used by poets who want to pack as much meaning as they can into as few words as possible. Similes can be very effective aids in your imaginative writing. However, if a simile is used too often, it tends to lose its effect. For example, the statement, "The child is as good as gold" contains a simile, "as good as gold." But the comparison is so common that very few people, when reading it, think of the precious nature of gold and how this emphasizes the value of the child's behavior. Overused similes such as this are known as cliches, and relying on them too much is a sign of lazy writing. Another point to bear in mind when using similes is to make sure that there is always at least one point of comparison between the two objects in the clause, and that the simile used is drawing attention to that quality in the first object. Finally, remember that too many similes in the same paragraph can slow down your writing. So, it is usually better to use similes sparingly unless you are trying deliberately to create a sense of peace and calm. Describing things effectively is an important way to directly involve your readers. The more convincing your descriptions, the more likely you are to draw your readers. It is important that you make your descriptions as clear as possible, and you can do this by focusing on specific details of the person or place that you are describing. An effective and straightforward way of including such detail is by concentrating on how what you are describing appeals to different senses. Ask yourself the following questions before you start to write to help you focus on these details. How the person or place looks like? Which sounds do one hear? This could refer to a person's voice or movements or to the sounds that are most apparent in the place you are writing about. How does it feel like? We are talking about the sense of skin or touch. For example, you could describe a character's handshake or the feeling of hot and humid in a summer scene. Pay attention to the sense of taste, the sense of olfactory or smell like earthly, smog, fresh grass, a smoke choked street in a big city. It is not essential to include references to all the senses in every description. Most importantly, good descriptive writing depends on choosing exactly the right word to communicate what is in your mind. It is usually better to present your description in a dynamic way through an effective choice of verbs and adverbs rather than slowing down your description with too many adjectives and similes. Consider the following sentences. First one is, the man came into the office and sat on his chair behind the desk. The second statement is, the man drifted into the office and slumped into his chair behind the desk. And the third one is, the man stormed into the office and positioned himself on the chair behind his desk. Each of these sentences conveys the same basic information, that a man entered an office and sat at his desk. However, the different choice of verbs in each sentence suggests a completely different account of events. The first one is neutral in what it tells us. The other two sentences are much more vivid and give a much clearer indication of the mood and the character of the man. So, now to summarize, we have tried to give you a brief idea about the art of descriptive writing. To write effective descriptions, you need to have a clear picture of who or what it is that you are setting out to describe. Doing this allows you to focus on precise details which make the descriptions come alive in the reader's mind. Good writers incorporate descriptive passages into the overall piece of writing rather than write descriptively for the sake of it. The academic descriptive essay's purpose or goal is to convey in a clear, purposeful way the significance of the story being told rather than focusing too much on the entertainment process. Using less of adjectives, more of verbs, use of metaphors and similes can help you to build an impressive descriptive piece of writing. Thank you so much for watching.